A once great pay-per-view known as the Survivor Series. What happened to it? Why has the Survivor Series become one of the most irrelevant pay-per-views that WWE has produced all year long? How can we fix what was once a great tradition? Ladies and gentlemen, today on Off the Script, we are going to go over how we can implement the Survivor Series into the road to WrestleMania and make everything on that road feel important. Also, Paige is standing up for herself. A major update on Paige still streaming on Twitch after WWE closed everything down this week. And also, speaking of the road to WrestleMania, I have major news on the proposed winners already. Believe it or not, Bruce has an idea? I don't think so, folks. You know how plans change in WWE. But a proposed idea so far for the women's and men's 2021 Royal Rumble. All this plus so much more right here on episode 349 for your Sunday, November 1st, right here on Off the Script.
Delete! This is mine.
Alive with it. People still What is going on, guys? Thank you so very much for joining me right here on Off the Script. It is Sunday, November 1st, 2020, and this is episode 349 of the number one podcast in your subscription boxes in the entire IWC. This is Off the Script. We got a big show today, so big that I was here yesterday, and I'm back today on your Sunday, man. I know a lot of you guys are probably watching NFL football, but I got to keep you up to date on literally everything happening in World Wrestling Entertainment before we hit a brand new week, before we continue on that road to the Survivor Series. And that is going to be the big topic of discussion today, man. I like usually doing these topical discussions when we have something as important as the Survivor Series happening in just a couple of weeks. Why has WWE ruined the Survivor Series? What could WWE do to make the Survivor Series more relevant and bring it back in the same way that they have Royal Rumble and WrestleMania and SummerSlam? Now, before I even dive into the topic, I want to make sure you guys understand that I've always ranted about the WWE pay-per-view calendar. I've always ranted how WWE pay-per-view and their pay-per-view model doesn't really do it for me anymore. There's no importance to these pay-per-views anymore. And I've honestly, as a fan, kind of hit my breaking point with what WWE is doing with the Survivor Series. And we are going to talk about how we can simply make this better. What are we doing with the brand-to-brand warfare? What are we doing with the interpromotional stuff, with Raw being its own entity and SmackDown being its own entity? What exactly is on the line at the Survivor Series? And why would Bruce, my good old buddy Bruce, why would Vince expect me and you and everybody else watching this weekly garbage on Monday and Friday to invest our time in caring about what happens at the Survivor Series when WWE is doing nothing more than giving you fantasy matchups and a make-believe fantasy land of turmoil between Raw and SmackDown, acting as if they're their own separate entities. Meanwhile, they're all operating under the WWE umbrella. I don't really get it. But we're going to talk about it, and we're going to make sure you guys really understand why this is all important, why it should be important as what WWE does at WrestleMania. I talked about Paige, and I talked about everybody being shut down on Twitch. WWE shut everybody down on Twitch. We're going to go over that briefly again, as I have more breaking news as far as what is happening with that. I know several wrestlers have reached out to Andrew Yang. They're crying and weeping and moaning to Andrew Yang as if he has any power in this situation with what Vince McMahon is doing with Twitch and Cameo and shutting everything down. But Paige, I ranted on Paige yesterday, and I really let her have it on some of the things that she said. But I think, honestly, today it's going to be me singing a different tune. I ranted on her yesterday. We'll go over why. But as of today, Paige is actually being defiant against Vince and against company policies when it comes to this third-party platform ban. She's actually still streaming on Twitch, which I got to give her credit for. And I don't blame her at all. I really don't blame her whatsoever. So we'll go over that as well on the podcast. I also have all your weekly Monday Night Raw, AEW, NXT, and SmackDown news. Vince McMahon, why Vince McMahon has not given NXT a stage at the Survivor Series, and backstage news on why Vince McMahon is not using NXT at the Survivor Series. Not only the brand, but why he's not using at least some of their talent on the show like WWE did last year. We'll talk about the Royal Rumble, current plans for the winners of the 2021 Royal Rumble, and major speculation on Dwayne Johnson being involved in the Roman Reigns Tribal Chief storyline. How likely is it? And what does Dwayne Johnson need to do if he does want to come on back and be a part of this and be the final boss in this storyline like we all know he should? What does Dwayne Johnson, The Rock, have to do in this Tribal Chief storyline to make it one of the best that WWE has ever produced? So we will go over all of that today on Off the Script, guys. Thank you so very much for joining me here on the podcast. Follow me on social media. By the way, today's show is brought to you by Blue Chew, BlueChew.com. We'll go over my good friends over at Blue Chew a little bit later. But make sure you guys follow me on social media at JD from NY206. That's on Twitter and Instagram. Make sure you guys hit that subscribe button, turn on the bell for all notifications. If you guys want to go check out what we talked about on part 1 of OTS 349, we dive into the quarterly conference call, the bullshit conference call, like I usually call it, comedy hour, by Vince McMahon addressing investors on Wall Street, all the lies, all the bullshit that Vince McMahon is spewing these dumb fucks over on Wall Street because they don't know what's going on. And Vince, he's such a manipulative bitch that these people just eat it all up, man. They got that nice silver spoon and all that money rolling in, and they don't give a shit about anything else that's happening. We went over that, and we went over why WWE changed Matt Riddle's name. Yes, again, I'm not trolling. I wish I was. I don't know whether he's a professional wrestler, ex-MMA fighter, or he's the newest villain in fucking Arkham Knight in Gotham City. I don't know. So WWE changed Matt Riddle's name, and we went over why, and that was a nice little rant for you guys on yesterday's show. If you missed that, link is down below in the description of this very video. Couple of ways to support the podcast. As you guys know, number one, Patreon. We are reworking the Patreon page. Things are in motion. It's going to be great, man. You're going to want to be a part of Team JD and be one of my VIPs for the holiday season, man. Great stuff coming up. We got some exclusive t-shirts in the works. We got some exclusive items that you're not going to be able to get anywhere but Patreon. It's going to be great for the holiday season, man. Keep an eye and an ear out for that. Patreon.com/JD from NY206. If you guys want to go and get your masks, mouthmasker.com. That's mouthmasker.com/OTS. Go get your new black off-the-script masks. I actually got mine sitting right here, man. Look at that. I love it. It is so good, and it even comes with a little filter as well. so you guys are protected during these difficult times that we are living through. Mouthmasker.com. Go and get your masks. That's mouthmasker.com/OTS. Make sure you guys go and get a t-shirt. Bonfire.com is the exclusive home of JD is Negan and the off-the-script shop. Bonfire.com. Link for that is down in the description of this very video. And like I said, man, today's show is sponsored by my great friends over at Blue Chew. BlueChew.com. Don't let Bruce get you down on a Monday and Friday night, man. Pop some Blue Chew. You'll be good to go. We'll talk about them a little bit later on in the show. Let's start off with this Paige leaving Twitch situation. She isn't leaving Twitch, man. In fact, she's back, continuing to stream on the platform. Paige had a little bit of a breakdown this week when WWE shut everybody's Twitch streams down. Zelina Vega, AJ Styles, Xavier Woods. Jesse even texted me yesterday, my buddy Jesse that you guys see on Wednesday with me on the AEW post show right here on Off the Script. He even told me nobody's really talking about up, up, down, down. And that's got to be a major money maker for WWE. And apparently that was shut down as well, which I was under the impression that that was a WWE-owned entity, but I'm assuming Xavier Woods, Austin Creed had more into that than we realized. I don't really understand why. It's one of the biggest gaming channels on all of YouTube, and they shut that down. Everybody on Twitch shut down. I don't know what happened to Asuka. I don't know what happened to Kana-chan TV. I know a lot of you guys were big fans of Kana-chan TV. She went about it, to be honest with you, and I mentioned this time and time again, Asuka has gone about this in the correct way from the beginning. Nothing about her WWE persona or character has ever been portrayed on that channel. She built it from the ground up from Kana-chan TV. It wasn't Asuka TV. Nothing about the Empress of Tomorrow. Nothing. Nothing regarding her WWE IP. Now, I don't know if she's shut down or not. She doesn't really do anything Oscar-related. She does unboxing. She does tastings. She does video gaming. She goes out and eats, I don't know, she's picnicking, I believe. She does some silly shit on there. Some of you guys love that channel. I'm not sure if that was shut down. But I am to believe that everybody got shut down. When they will be back, I don't know. Aleister Black, Zelina Vega, like I said, Cesaro, Tyler Breeze, Adam Cole, Mia Yim, you name it. You name it. Everybody came out and made statements. Now, there was a report that some of these talents actually went and collectively went to Vince McMahon and argued about why this was wrong. Now, clearly nothing came of that and nothing will come of that. But I did mention that nothing will change unless they all join together. You got to be like fucking Power Rangers here, man. You got to be like the Transformers, you know? Autobots, rise! And get together and form one big fucking faction here and go into Vince McMahon's office. He can't fire everybody. Nothing is going to change unless everybody gangs together and collectively goes in there. And it's not going to happen after one instance. It's not going to happen after two instances. It's got to be a regular thing. You got to stand up for yourself. You really do. Now, I've seen some people in the community, people that I actually respect and like, which is not really a thing I like to admit out there, but there are some people in the community that I really do like and have helped me. I've seen some things about diving deeper into the entire Twitch and WWE thing. That WWE is actually in a secret war with Twitch. And that Twitch is growing so much, they're worth billions. That they're growing so much that if you take every major streaming platform, like an ESPN, like a WWE, and like anybody else you want to throw into that group of streaming services, that Twitch outnumbers them collectively all by themselves. That Twitch actually has, I believe, somewhere in the vicinity of 600 million users right now watching what's going on the platform on a daily basis. That's ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. Now, I don't know what WWE stance is on all of this. I don't. But I don't think that they're in a secret war with Twitch. I don't think WWE is pulling talent from Twitch because, they are working with somebody that is directly affecting WWE's bottom line, the WWE Network bottom line, their social media bottom line, YouTube, whatever the case may be. I don't think it's anything to do with that. Because no matter what, if WWE was with Twitch or they weren't with Twitch, I don't think Twitch is going to give a shit. I don't think Twitch really needs all of the WWE talent that's on the platform streaming for them to make their numbers at the end of the month, at the end of the year. They don't need it. They don't need it. So what's the point? What is the point of WWE going into a war with Twitch and being petty as always and pulling talent off Twitch to say, ha, I got you guys back. Now you can't use our talent. Our talent's not with the platform because the platform's outperforming everybody, including us, collectively at the same time. I don't think that's the case whatsoever. I do think that it's just Vince McMahon being Vince McMahon. I understand it from an investor's point of view. I understand it from a performer point of view. I really do. And I understand where Paige is coming from. I don't like the fact that when we talked about it yesterday, she kind of blamed WWE for everything. WWE's done me dirty. WWE has, taken years from my career. I blame them for my injury because they overworked me. I mean, now you're really diving into the situation of you just being a petty bitch because you can't get what you want, you can't get your way, and now you're blaming everything on them when they should not be blamed for everything. And that's coming from me, who usually blames WWE for everything. You can't blame them for your career ending. Everybody's career could be ended at the snap of a fucking finger if they get in the ring. Somebody's career could end on Monday. So who are you and why are you any different? So for her to blame WWE on the fact that they overworked her, I'm sorry, I don't find that to be a credible argument here. Then you want to blame WWE for not looking out for you. There was some of the toughest times in your life working under WWE. I'm sorry, didn't you go and date some drug addict, alcoholic, anger fucking management geek known as Del Rio? Alberto Del Rio, weren't you photographed and videoed with this guy in New York City and various places while he shot down WWE and shot down Triple H? I remember vividly that this guy was on camera uploading it to his Instagram page and to Twitter, calling Triple H a big-nosed pussy. The big-nosed pussy from Stamford, Connecticut. And then Paige, lo and behold, standing right there next to him. You are guilty by association. Now, Triple H, he didn't really do anything to you because he protected you in that situation. He didn't want Del Rio in the WWE because he knew what Del Rio would be doing as far as being an influence to not only you, but the rest of the roster. They don't want to sully their name by bringing in a fucking Del Rio. He's not a moneymaker. He's a fucking low-life loser. So who exactly saved you from peril, Miss Paige? Oh, yeah, that's right. The big-nosed pussy from Stamford, Connecticut. Oh, that's the guy. No, but WWE, they gave you a tough time in your personal life, though. Yeah, please, cry me a river. Cry me a river. We talked about all that. Those are the arguments that I gave as far as the whole Paige crying and bitching and moaning and then her blaming everything on WWE. I get it to an extent, but you gotta fucking know your limits here, man. You gotta draw your limits at some point. She's not leaving Twitch. She's back streaming on Twitch, even though WWE has sent the edict to close everything down. Now, she's not been silent regarding the last few years of her life. We discussed that. After going through so much, the Twitch community helped her get through everything. She's not leaving the platform. Now, she says this, and I quote, "The fact that you guys are just so supportive of all of us and me in general is like, holy crap, this is wonderful and made me feel so much happier and so much better. So yeah, I'm going to keep doing that. I'm going to keep doing what I'm doing. You know, I don't have a lot going on, you guys. I really don't. I feel sorry, and I feel really happy today because of all the support that was given. I don't have a lot going on, so this is really special to me. I'm always one that speaks my mind. It's kind of bittersweet because I can get in trouble for being honest. You and me, I know how to get in trouble by being honest, man. I'm the fucking infamous one in the entire community. I'm the fucking black sheep of the community. I can get in trouble for being honest and having an opinion, or it can be something very positive where I helped a lot of people. Her and I are on the same page when it comes to that. So that part of it, I really do respect coming from her. I like to stand up for what is right for not just me, but for everybody. I think it's very important to always carry yourself in a certain regard. I just want to carry myself in a way where people can look at me one day and say, wow, she wasn't afraid to stand up for herself. I feel like that is more of a role model because obviously I did some stupid stuff. Oh, I went through a crazy stage in my life for a couple of years, but how I came out of that, I feel like I did a good job. And I want to continue trying to be a role model for people and show people that you can say and do whatever you want if it's in the right way, end quote. So from what I get through all of this written statement or verbal statement by Paige, which I'm assuming was on her Twitch stream, she's not going nowhere. She's going to stand up for what's right, and she's going to get in trouble for being honest and having an opinion, and she's going to stand up for what she thinks is right. And I got to give her credit, even though I'm not a big fan of her at all anymore. I would say that she's got some balls doing what she's doing. And in fact, she's probably making the best decision that she could make. Why should she have to listen to people that really aren't using her in the way that she wants to be used anymore? Her career is over. I don't want to say her career is over. We all thought Daniel Bryan's career was over, and that was not. We all thought Edge, of all people, his career was over, and that was not. He's going to be in the main event of WrestleMania next year against Randy Orton for the WWE title. So to say his career was over, I mean, I think we all look like fucking dummies. Paige could certainly come back, and I think WWE is waiting on that for when they want Paige to come back. And if Edge can come back, I mean, he's a modern-day miracle. She could very well come back as well. So I don't know what's going on as far as her wrestling career, but right now, she's not doing anything. She's not on TV. They gave her a commissioner role. They took her away from that. They did not want to put her in a commentary role because, God forbid, we got to listen to that voice on commentary every single week. So WWE gave her a contract. They signed her to 5 years to be under WWE contract. Then we had WWE Backstage on Fox. That was canceled. She was a big part of that. She was on the panel every single week. That got canceled. What exactly do you want this woman to do? She's not on TV. WWE Backstage is canceled. You're not giving her any other leeway as far as getting on the network, giving her her own show there, giving her a spot on television. What exactly do you want this woman to do? And who knows how much money she's raking in, $50,000, $60,000, $70,000, $80,000 a month on Twitch with all the followers. This is just making her even bigger on Twitch. So it's going to accentuate the fact that she's not going to want to give it up even after all of this, because she's probably gaining more popularity because of this, and people feel sorry for her, and people want to be a part of her community to support her. So that money that she's making, you want her to willingly give that up in comparison to what she's doing with WWE, which is nothing? I think Vince is absolutely mental. I really do. And nobody's really brought up the fact that Vince McMahon has done this in a time where it's people going out and being more vocal about everything regarding who they want in the White House. Vince McMahon is obviously in with Trump. I don't know if Vince McMahon doing this right now was a really good decision, business move on his end, as far as keeping Trump in office. He's probably got the entire fucking roster and all of the employees in WWE voting the other way because of what he's doing here. Seriously. I don't really understand the business aspect of this from how this is right on his end. There had to be a middle ground, and that middle ground wasn't even covered. I do give her credit for having the balls to stand up and say something and do something. So I don't know what's going to happen with that. I will continue to keep you guys updated on all of this. And if you guys are subscribed to Paige on Twitch, if you follow her on Twitch, if you enjoy her content, continue supporting her. Continue supporting her. Because she's one of a very select few that's actually standing up for herself in this battle for the third-party platform ban on WWE performers. So I don't know what else to add there. And I think Paige is doing the right thing as far as she is concerned for her own well-being. I want to dive into the Survivor Series, man. The Survivor Series, this is a major topical discussion. And I don't know who in the community has said what about the Survivor Series. I don't know what they think of the Survivor Series. I don't know if they even care about the Survivor Series. But the Survivor Series to me was always one of the most important times of the entire year. It was obviously something growing up that I have many a fond memory of. I always loved sitting down with my family when the Survivor Series took place on Thanksgiving Eve or Thanksgiving, spending time with family, and instead of watching the football games, me and my dad, my family, my brothers, we all sat down and watched the Survivor Series because they all knew that we were big fans of the WWF. And I miss those times. I wish we had something that was knee-deep in that tradition, and it was said when that tradition went away. And when it went away, the importance of the Survivor Series went away with it. Now WWE has this fictional Monday Night Raw versus Friday Night SmackDown feud going on. They try to pretend that there's turmoil between Monday nights and Friday nights and the brands don't like each other, which I don't even think it's really important to anything to even start that now with 2 weeks before the Survivor Series. WWE has yet to sell us on the fact of Monday Night Raw versus the SmackDown side. They haven't done anything. No showing up on the opposite brand. They're not doing anything in regards to that, whether it's for creative reasons or COVID-19 reasons. It's not being done. It's not being done. WWE has buried the Survivor Series to a point where it falls in line with everything else that they've buried on their pay-per-view calendar. Nothing about the Survivor Series feels important. Absolutely nothing. Nothing is on the line. There's nothing at stake. It doesn't really play into the role of being a Big Four pay-per-view. It doesn't factor into the road for WrestleMania. And before you know it, we'll be at the Royal Rumble. So I don't know why WWE doesn't factor it into the road to WrestleMania. I don't. But the Survivor Series is not important. It's not important anymore. It's not an important factor to WWE. None of their pay-per-views are. The same way I feel about Survivor Series, I feel about WrestleMania. WrestleMania is nothing more than name, and that's it. WrestleMania is nothing more than hype, and that's it. Same thing with SummerSlam. Same thing with the Royal Rumble. Now, I still get excited for the Royal Rumble because there's just something about counting down from 10 and hearing the buzzer go off, and that just gets you excited, and it brings you back to times when, hey, man, I love this shit growing up, and that never went away. Hearing somebody's theme music come out, they run down the aisle, and 30 men repeat the same process until one man remains in the ring, and then they get a main event spot at WrestleMania. I love that. I love that. Is there anything else during the year where you get that feeling? Is there anything else during the year where WWE gives you that sense of importance? No. I mean, look at how they killed Money in the Bank. Look at how they killed Money in the Bank. Look at what they've done in the last 2 to 3 years for Money in the Bank. They gave Money in the Bank this year to one half of a tag team that had no direction on WWE television. They gave it to somebody that they would never in 1,000 lifetimes give a world title to. They gave it to Otis instead of giving it to somebody that they thought was the next in line as far as, I think this guy's ready for a world championship. I think this guy's ready to be the man on Raw or on SmackDown. WWE gave it to Otis simply out of shock factor. Giving anything to anyone for shock factor doesn't work. It works for maybe a 24-hour period, maybe a 48-hour period. And after that, you look back at yourself and ask yourself, hey, should we have done that? I don't think that was the right decision, man. And that's exactly what they did with Otis. Instead of giving it to somebody where there was a plan in place, they gave it to somebody to shock the fans on the internet, shock the fans watching the product, thinking that it was going to generate interest. And what did it do? It failed. It absolutely failed. Now, the Survivor Series, it was an annual Thanksgiving week pay-per-view, and it's been a huge staple in WWE for many years. I mean, we're celebrating The Undertaker's 30th anniversary. The Survivor Series has been around for 30 years, and The Undertaker debuted at the Survivor Series. That's how big of an event this is. So many memories coming out of the Survivor Series. It was once a major part of the Big Four: Royal Rumble, WrestleMania, SummerSlam, and then you had Survivor Series right there. WWE in the early 90s gave you the King of the Ring. WWE added yet another staple to their Big Four, making it the Big Five. It was the King of the Ring, which I don't know why is not still a staple in the WWE calendar, but I'm not booking these shows. You got some fucking red-faced fucking slob named Bruce Pritchard running the show, and you got a senile, demented old fuck named Vince McMahon not caring about anybody, anyone, or anything except for his wallet. He doesn't give a shit what's on TV. Now, is the Survivor Series still a part of WWE's Big Four? The answer is no. It's not. It's not. And no matter what you want to think about the fantasy warfare, about the Raw versus SmackDown idea that they got going on that really isn't there, it's not. It's not. Now, if WWE changed things up and gave you a reason to care, maybe it could be a part of the Big Four. But as of right now, it's not a part of the Big Four in my eyes. I don't even think the Big Four are a part of the Big Four anymore. And that includes SummerSlam, Royal Rumble, and WrestleMania. There's nothing there. None of these shows are important. WWE has moved away from making pay-per-view important for ratings on Monday or Friday night. Look at how many big matches they've given away on Monday night and Friday night, which renders the pay-per-views useless, because by the time we get to the pay-per-view, we would have seen said match about 3 or 4 different times already. How much of an importance is left when I see Keith Lee versus Randy Orton for the 8th time? There's none. There's no more importance. The event began in 1985. Actually, the event began as the other pay-per-view in 1995, because WWE took a shot with WrestleMania 1. WrestleMania was such a huge worldwide success for WWE that they wanted to try their hand at other events. They followed it up with the Wrestling Classic in November, if you guys remember the Wrestling Classic. It was a one-off event, which its sole purpose was to see if they could replicate the success from WrestleMania. And they did. They did. And then they put plans in motion for WrestleMania 2 in the spring. Now, WrestleMania 2 was not the success that WrestleMania was. It was a success for WWE on pay-per-view. But if you guys recall, WrestleMania was actually held in multiple places. And I have it pulled up because I had to go back to see exactly which places that they were emanating WrestleMania 2 from. WrestleMania 2 took place in Nassau Coliseum in New York, the Rosemont Horizon in Rosemont, Illinois, and Los Angeles at the Los Angeles Memorial Sports Arena. WrestleMania took place in 3 different locations with 3 completely different cards. No wonder it wasn't as big as WrestleMania 1 was from Madison Square Garden. But WWE had major success on pay-per-view. Now, as far as the Survivor Series goes, when did the Survivor Series become a major staple in the WWE pay-per-view calendar? Well, WWE wanted an annual event. They got WrestleMania down. They had WrestleMania down. That was going to be their annual event. They did 1, then they did 2, and then obviously the story unfolds, as you guys know. But WWE had that in their back pocket. That was for the first quarter of the entire year. They wanted something for the back end of the fiscal year. And what did WWE do? They created the Survivor Series. Now, they created the Survivor Series for the month of November, and it was clearly targeted at the NWA, and they wanted to get into that territory. Now, they had Starrcade back in November, and Starrcade took place on Thanksgiving Day. And Vince decided to run his newest pay-per-view concept called the Survivor Series on the same day, which at the end of the day forced viewers to choose which one they wanted to watch. Was it going to be the Survivor Series or was it going to be Starrcade? After that, many people chose the WWF and their tag team format, their elimination tag team format, instead of Starrcade. And then off and running was the Survivor Series. So NWA eventually moved Starrcade, which was their biggest show of the year, to December to close out their calendar year with the biggest show of the year. And WWF eventually settled into hosting the Survivor Series on Thanksgiving Day, Thanksgiving Eve, or now the Sunday before Thanksgiving. That was the tradition. As the years went on, the importance of the show became stifled. The importance of the show just wasn't there anymore. You had the Royal Rumble, you had WrestleMania, you had King of the Ring, you had SummerSlam, and you had Survivor Series. And as we went on, we had several different moments at the Survivor Series that ended up being memorable. The most important thing that happened at the Survivor Series, probably in the history of the event, was in 1998 with the Deadly Games tournament, a one-night tournament for the WWF Championship, the conclusion of which that had a major storyline that had implications on WrestleMania the next year. We don't really see that anymore. We don't really see Survivor Series having implications for WrestleMania anymore, and that's the part I want to really discuss. That is the part I really want to hone in on. Why has Survivor Series moved away from being important, and why has WWE deteriorated the importance of Survivor Series that it doesn't play into the WrestleMania season anymore? That's what we need to try and figure out. That's what we have to do to get Survivor Series back in the important column. How do we do that? People for years have come up with different situations, whether it's a first-round pick in the draft. That's always the going one, the leading stipulation that people would add to the Survivor Series. The winning brand gets a first-round draft pick in the next year's draft. How does anybody look at that and feel like that's important? The WWE draft in itself is not important because WWE doesn't even book it to be important. Who gives a shit? WWE doesn't do anything as far as keeping the brand separate either because we've seen that all year long. Up and down this year, we've seen nothing but champion versus champion matches across Raw and SmackDown, brand-to-brand invitationals to break the rule of the brand split for the sake of ratings. I mean, leading up to the draft and going on after the draft, we've seen Raw versus SmackDown. It really doesn't matter. So what difference does it make who gets a number one draft pick? WWE doesn't care at the end of the day. What if the winning brand gets one NXT draft pick during the draft? That's another one I heard. Who gives a shit? A, why do we have to delegate NXT to only being called up in the month of November because Survivor Series? What if somebody is ready in January to be called up? You're going to hold them off to be called up in November? That's just a waste of that talent in NXT, and you're stifling them from getting a head start on their main roster career, which WWE stifling NXT is a common thing nowadays. Just look at Matt Riddle and just look at Keith Lee. So it really doesn't matter, but I'm trying to make logic of the situation. Why would you use NXT in that role? It really doesn't make sense. Oh, they get called up, they get a number one draft pick from NXT, and that is going to be for the winning brand. Nobody cares. Nobody gives a shit about that. What if the winning brand at Survivor Series wins their spot for WrestleMania? For example, if Monday Night Raw beats SmackDown in the Survivor Series, or if SmackDown beats Raw in the Survivor Series, then that brand would get main event billing at WrestleMania, meaning the Universal title would main event WrestleMania if SmackDown won, and the WWE title would main event WrestleMania if Monday Night Raw won. Who cares? Who cares? Nobody cares about allegiances towards Raw or SmackDown. Nobody gives a shit which match main events WrestleMania. The titles don't even fucking matter. The titles are as irrelevant as they've ever been. So what exactly are we doing as far as that goes? I even proposed. What if the winning team, say, Monday Night Raw this year wins the Survivor Series, and you got AJ Styles, and you got Sheamus, and you got Keith Lee, and whoever else they add to that team at Survivor Series. What if those 5 guys, they win their match against SmackDown at Survivor Series, and those guys get top picking in the Royal Rumble, meaning any spot between 16 and 30, or maybe it could be 20 and 30, meaning that they have preferential treatment going into the Royal Rumble because they did what they did and they beat the other brand at the Survivor Series. Now, I like that, but I got one better for you guys. I got one that's going to tie in not only Survivor Series, but it's going to tie in TLC. It's going to tie in the Royal Rumble, and then it's going to tie in WrestleMania. Because that's exactly what we need to do. We need to start having a chain effect for all of these major pay-per-views. You could have these B-level, D-level pay-per-views like Over the Edge or fucking Judgment Day or Backlash or Hell in a Cell, whatever the fuck WWE's got going on. But we need a chain effect, meaning we need to go from Survivor Series to the Royal Rumble to WrestleMania to King of the Ring to SummerSlam, rinse and repeat back to the Survivor Series. Why hasn't WWE thought of a way to chain all of these pay-per-views, just upping the importance of everything that happens leading into these shows? What about this? What if WWE has the Raw or SmackDown team? Whoever comes out of the Survivor Series winning. Say it's SmackDown. SmackDown team wins. They actually get an opportunity at the TLC pay-per-view. Meaning, you're going from the Survivor Series and you're making something like the TLC pay-per-view even more important because WWE doesn't really give a shit about these D-level pay-per-views. They're just there to bridge the gap in between all these major shows. And to sell network subscriptions. What if the winning team, say SmackDown, wins the Survivor Series? You take all 5 of those guys, and you take all 5 of those women, and you do the same thing with the women. You take the 5 men and 5 women, and you have 2 TLC matches at tables, ladders, and chairs. All 5 of the men that were on the SmackDown team, they won a right to gain an opportunity for themselves. What is the opportunity? All 5 of those guys and all 5 of those women would be placed in a tables, ladders, and chairs match at the pay-per-view. And the winner of that match, yes, a 5-person ladder match. All 5 of those men and women would be placed in individual ladder matches. The winner of that ladder match would then go on to challenge on his brand. So if it's SmackDown, it would be Universal title. If it's Raw, it's WWE title. The winner of that ladder match would go on to the Royal Rumble and get a Universal or WWE World title opportunity. Then you got the Royal Rumble. Then you got the Royal Rumble match itself. You pretty much have your main event of WrestleMania already in the works with the winner of that championship match and then the winner of the Royal Rumble at the end of the day, depending on which brand is going to be in that title match and which brand comes out of winning the Royal Rumble. So you're bridging already. You're bridging Survivor Series, you're bridging TLC, and you're bridging the Royal Rumble. Now, the Royal Rumble is a natural bridge to WrestleMania. Then you got the Elimination Chamber in February. The winner of the Royal Rumble, depending on which brand they're going to be associated with, the Elimination Chamber is going to be in February, and the other brand that didn't win the Royal Rumble is going to have their title match determined inside the Elimination Chamber. So you're bridging Survivor Series, TLC, Royal Rumble, and the Elimination Chamber. WrestleMania is your next big show. Everything that happened in all of these pay-per-views leading up to WrestleMania is going to get you to WrestleMania. Why is this so simple, yet it's not being put into effect? And then you take April, you take May, you take June. What do you do in those months leading up to June? You have qualifying matches with everybody on Raw and SmackDown as a way to gain entry into the King of the Ring. And you do this and you apply the King of the Ring to the pay-per-view calendar, whether it's 8, whether it's 16, you build an entire night based off qualifying matches that have happened in the last 4 to 5, 6 weeks on Monday night and Friday night, giving those shows importance. And then you have an 8 or 16 man, whichever you want to go with, tournament in one night. The winner of the King of the Ring, depending on the brand. And yes, this will be brand warfare. This will be playing into the aspect of brand warfare. You're going to be having brand warfare all year. Royal Rumble is going to be Raw versus SmackDown. King of the Ring is going to be Raw versus SmackDown. Survivor Series, when you get there, SmackDown might want to get back at Raw because somebody from Raw won the King of the Ring. SmackDown might want to get back at Raw because someone from Raw won the Royal Rumble, and vice versa. So you're going to have that turmoil there. You're going to have that competitive nature there. But the winner of the King of the Ring would win, depending on which brand he's on, would win a number one contendership to that brand's world championship. Your SummerSlam main event. And you could even do a Queen of the Ring. Seriously. Whether that happens on its own pay-per-view, I don't know. Whether that happens during the Raw versus SmackDown episodes in a weekly format, whatever the case may be, WWE can bridge the King of the Ring into SummerSlam and give that man or woman, depending on which brand they're on, a shot at their world championship, at their brand's world championship. And then you rinse and repeat back at the Survivor Series. You'll have gimmick pay-per-views like Clash of Champions. I don't really give a shit about that. All the championships are on the line. Fine. That's a nice little gimmick for you guys to have. All the championships in one night in the company are on the line. Fine. But King of the Ring needs to be placed in June. Get rid of Money in the Bank. Put Money in the Bank at the WrestleMania show. How do you determine that? You could do qualifying matches. You could take everybody that was in the Elimination Chamber who came in second, third, fourth, fifth, right? There's 6 men in the chamber. You take all the 5 losers in the chamber. You give them automatic spots or at least opportunities to compete for a spot in the Money in the Bank match at WrestleMania. Everything needs to be linked. Everything needs to have a nice flow to it. When we get back to Survivor Series, there'll be some turmoil. There'll be some competitive aspects there. But WWE hasn't done this show any favors whatsoever because of their lack of care for the draft, because of their lack of care of building new superstars. WWE thinks by giving me qualifying matches that I'm going to care about who's on Raw and who's on SmackDown fighting for the right for their brand. I don't give a shit. What's on the line? What is of great value here that they're fighting for? Why would they even want to be a part of something that really doesn't matter at the end of the day? Do you guys remember when Shane McMahon and Stephanie McMahon were leading Raw versus SmackDown and Stephanie was going on a mission to hype everybody up for the Survivor Series? I know you guys remember this because it sat so negatively with me for months. Then you got Shane McMahon doing the same thing, right? I believe he was even a part of his men's Survivor Series team in hopes that he could aid them in winning. All the weeks leading up to Survivor Series about Raw, we're better than Raw, and we're going to get Stephanie McMahon back, we're going to get my sister back, yada, 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 right? And being angry about everybody, you're fired if you don't win, there's going to be repercussions if you don't win. What happened on that next SmackDown with Shane McMahon leading his brand? Was it ever mentioned? Did anybody reap the fucking consequences from that? No. Nobody reaped anything. Nobody was punished. Nobody was fucking reprimanded in any way. WWE has this thing about not caring. And if we don't care, how could we expect them to care? And vice versa. If WWE doesn't care, why would anybody watching these shows care? Survivor Series has been such a major staple of WWE that they are simply going about these fantasy dream matches from Raw and SmackDown, pairing champion versus champion, and qualifying matches to see who's on Raw to fight the men that qualified on SmackDown. Why do you think WWE has laid this out for Survivor Series? They don't want to work during WrestleMania season. They barely do anything for WrestleMania season. They try and put a card together, and half of it sucks. They don't do anything important for SummerSlam. WWE Creative does nothing, man. We hear reports about scripts being late, scripts not being written, scripts being ripped up and written during the show. How could you expect WWE to fucking do anything right on any given month? Their creative doesn't want to be creative. At the end of the day, their creative doesn't even want to work. If they did, we wouldn't be getting the fucking garbage we get on a weekly basis. WWE has given you the Survivor Series format that they give you now every single year, with this year being the worst I've ever seen it. I don't give a fuck if Randy Orton and Roman Reigns are fighting to battle out over who is the top champion in WWE. As far as I'm concerned, neither guy can fucking afford a loss. Who wins the match? You got Randy Orton feuding with Edge. You got Randy Orton feuding with McIntyre and The Fiend. You got Roman Reigns as the top heel in the entire industry right now. Can either guy afford a loss? I don't think so. So why do they do it? Do they do it for us? Oh yeah, the fans want to see these dream matches, we'll do the dream matches. No, they don't do it for us. They do it because it's easy. They do it because it involves no work. They don't have to do anything. The Survivor Series was built for them before we finished Hell in a Cell. All they had to do was come up for the creative, and that night, at the end of Hell in a Cell, Survivor Series was made. The only thing you have to do, the only effort you have to do for Survivor Series is come up with 5 men and 5 women. 5 men, I should say. The women's divisions on Raw and SmackDown, they only exist with 5 or 6 women, so the entire division's gonna be on the fucking Survivor Series team. It doesn't matter. Come up with 5 men for Raw and 5 men for SmackDown. That is the only brain power that you need going into Survivor Series. It books itself. It is easy. It's easy for Vince. It's easy for Bruce. It's an easy month off for them. That's it. So when they have to worry about how are we building this pay-per-view, you don't. You don't have to do anything. It's built itself. It's booked itself off your shitty fucking gimmick that you're getting all the little kids excited about. It's terrible. It's a terrible, terrible concept with absolutely no effort involved. Why did WWE include NXT last year? I think we all know why they did. They included NXT in the Survivor Series because they thought by including NXT in the Survivor Series and having Raw and SmackDown show up on Wednesday night and having NXT show up on Monday and Friday night, that it was going to generate interest. That if you were watching NXT over AEW and you've seen Becky Lynch or Seth Rollins or anybody show up on NXT, oh my God, look at how exciting this is. This is unprecedented, right? What did it do? It created a cloud of desperation. WWE didn't get any interest from anything they did with the Survivor Series. None at all. Now, the Survivor Series format even struggled to maintain any sort of logic from a fan's point of view. Watching triple threat matches all night really doesn't entice me. That's why I said last year the best thing that happened at Survivor Series was Roman Reigns and Keith Lee and Rhea Ripley leading her team before they buried her at WrestleMania. And then we had Adam Cole versus Pete Dunne for the NXT title. And mind you, that was a fucking Adam Cole who took an air raid crash the night before off of a War Games cage. They included NXT in Survivor Series because they thought it was going to be the turning of the page for them to beat AEW. And what did everybody realize? That WWE was desperate. They were desperate. And that desperation honestly led people to not watching NXT. WWE only included NXT in the Survivor Series because of the AEW effect. That was it. If WWE cared about NXT or WWE cared about the Survivor Series, NXT would have been in the Royal Rumble. NXT would absolutely be for a second time this year in the Survivor Series. NXT would have been in the Survivor Series before AEW was even a fucking thing on TNT. So save me the bullshit, okay? You're gonna not include NXT in its glory years when AEW isn't even an entity on TNT? Now you want to include them. Now you want to include them. Give me a break. That's the type of shit you're not gonna hear from anybody else. Why wasn't NXT included before last year? That's what I want to know. When they were at the tippy top of this industry. All of a sudden they got chosen for the Survivor Series in 2019? Why? Why? You got to use your fucking heads. I'm not coming on here shilling AEW. I'm coming on here shilling the truth, okay? NXT is not a part of the Survivor Series this year because Vince McMahon has actively killed NXT. NXT does not feel the same. It doesn't. And it will never be the same unless something changes here. And how much can NXT have as far as an influence go on the Survivor Series if you've called how many different men and women up this year and done nothing with them? I don't really understand it. Does NXT have anybody left? The Undisputed Era is feuding with Pat McAfee. Finn Balor is out. Karrion Kross got hurt. Keith Lee got called up. Bianca Belair got called up. Velveteen Dream is doing God knows what. Who are you going to have on the team? Johnny Gargano, Tommaso Ciampa, Damian Priest, Dexter Lumis. Nobody's watching NXT on Wednesday. You want people to care about NXT if you put them on Monday night and Friday night? They tried that already, and nobody cared. Nobody cared. NXT right now is in a dead period where they can't succeed unless there's a gimmick from WCW applied to its name. Now, NXT is not a part of the Survivor Series because of the reasons that I just mentioned. And there's news going around that Vince McMahon might have disowned NXT. Now, Ringside News reported that there's no talk at all, and there was never talk about NXT being in the build for Survivor Series. During Wrestling Observer Radio, Dave Meltzer said that Vince McMahon might want to disown NXT because they haven't performed to the extent he expected. What exactly did he expect when you moved them to Wednesday night against a juggernaut known as AEW? How many different viewers you think you're going to get to watch your show when we all know, has a hand in NXT, who we know has a hand in choosing who he wants without really caring about what Triple H is doing? You take, and then you don't use what Triple H has given you. Triple H creates, Vince McMahon kills, right? And then you expect them to perform when all you want to do is take. Doesn't work that way. So he wants to disown NXT because they haven't performed. Why haven't they performed? It's because of you. You're the reason why NXT hasn't performed. Not because of Triple H. Triple H has given us years of greatness in NXT. You want me to now blame Triple H for NXT's woes? No, it's Vince McMahon. Look at the call-ups alone this year. And tell me that's not Vince McMahon's fault. Meltzer said, I'll tell you what. I think Vince wants to disown that entire brand because they're getting beat. End quote. Do you disagree with that statement? I don't. I know that to be legitimate fact. Just fucking open your eyes and watch the show. Now, there's also backstage news on Vince McMahon not using NXT or any NXT stars at this year's Survivor Series. Meltzer went on to say that there was some speculation, but it didn't really come to pass, that WWE would use NXT stars. Now, clearly that's not happening. Instead, WWE is building storylines for a takeover special on December 6th, whether that's War Games or another cheap attempt at a gimmick. I don't know. I don't really know where War Games is going to be quite honest with you. I don't know who's brought this up yet, but after watching Halloween Havoc and see War Games kind of unfold right before our very eyes with Pat McAfee, Pete Dunne, you got Oney Lorcan and Danny Burch against the Undisputed Era, which sounds like a War Games match to me. Where's War Games going to go? Is War Games going to go in the Capitol Wrestling Center? Are they going to be able to fit 2 rings into that structure? I don't think so. Is War Games going to be taking place inside the Thunderdome? Does WWE have enough space to do 2 rings at the Thunderdome? I don't know. Is NXT going to look for another venue that could house 2 rings and 2 cages for War Games? We don't even know if War Games is taking place. They haven't announced anything. We have settled into this comfortable thing where, it's War Games time because we got War Games the last 2 years. But I don't know if we're going to get War Games this year. Now, there is a TakeOver special, whether it's War Games or not, on December 6th. Should be noted that WWE did have colors of Raw, NXT, and SmackDown featured as part of the original Survivor Series logo that was shown during the Hell in a Cell broadcast, where NXT was shown. There was also Survivor Series promotional material featuring NXT on WWE's website and social media accounts, but that has since been removed. Meltzer reported in the latest edition of The Observer that there are two reasons why Vince decided not to use NXT. First being he wants to keep the brands separate as possible as a way to prevent COVID-19 outbreaks. I mean, that's always a reason, but I'm not buying it. I'm not buying it. The second reason comes down to the mentality to not portray NXT as a major brand on the same level as Monday Night Raw and SmackDown. Now, if they're on USA Network and you're promoting them on Monday Night Raw, how are you not looking at them as a major brand? All I seen was 2 or 3 times on Monday Night Raw they promoted Halloween Havoc throughout the entire show. Why is it not a major brand? It's on the USA Network. It's your feeding system for Raw and SmackDown. It should be considered a major brand and a major priority. Now, all of a sudden, you don't want to take them as a major priority. So why the fuck did you have them in Survivor Series last year? Why were they all over the place last year on Raw and on SmackDown? Oh, that's right, because you wanted to get the one-up on AEW. You wanted that check mark in the win column for WWE over AEW Dynamite. Happened once, right? And I can't even count on one hand how many times NXT beat AEW this year. It failed. They're bullshitting you, people. They're bullshitting you. NXT could very well be part of the Survivor Series, but WWE, they are obviously showing you it's a part of the AEW effect. Vince has killed NXT, and I'm sorry, it might take just a little bit too much creative effort to include NXT talent in Survivor Series. They can't exceed their data cap of creative effort for the month of November. That would exceed their limit. Give me a break. All we know is that the Survivor Series needs to be a bridge from when it happens, going on into TLC, going on into the Royal Rumble, going on into WrestleMania. All these shows need some sort of bridge. We need to link one show to the other. I'm not saying every show needs to be linked, but when you're talking about major shows, everything needs to have some sort of importance. Otherwise, what is the reason for these shows to happen, and why should I care? Why should you care? WWE's current plan for the winners of the 2020 Royal Rumble as of this week. Now, please, this is nothing more than speculation. I don't want people messaging me or yada, yada, yada about, oh, you said this on the podcast. I'm not reporting it, you fucking geek, okay? I'm merely talking about something that was reported by somebody else. If I had a choice in who wins the Royal Rumbles this year, Daniel Bryan and Bayley, okay? That would be my pick for the men and women. Or Bianca Belair, whichever way you want to go about it. WWE has a full schedule ahead of them. 2020 hasn't given them much room for really anything. And 2021 is not going to be any different from 2020. So we can expect more of the same next year, folks. I'm calling it right now. Now, we have talked about Daniel Bryan main eventing WrestleMania with Roman Reigns. We talked about Bianca Belair, Sasha Banks. Could be a Tessa Blanchard for all we know. It could be Sasha versus Tessa at WrestleMania. Oh, I'm sorry. Queen, I'm sorry, man. I'm sorry about forgetting the Android Queen. Could be Tessa versus Charlotte at WrestleMania. Who knows? Who knows what's going to happen, who they're going to bring in, who's going to be a surprise? We don't know. We talked about it all. WWE doesn't even have any plans for SmackDown as of this week. The show was being written well into the 7 o'clock hour, right before they went live on Fox. So why we're talking about the Royal Rumble and plans right now might be just completely useless, but it's a talking point. New betting odds came out this week listing Big E as the eventual winner of the 2021 Men's Royal Rumble match. This obviously has fans excited because there was hope that WWE would give Big E a tremendous push after being broken away from the New Day. Ringside News has learned that after asking about the situation that the company isn't even close to approaching plans for the Royal Rumble yet, they were explicitly told by somebody on the creative team, and I quote, "It's way too early to finalize this week's show, let alone the Royal Rumble." Now, Vince McMahon could always, and I love how they even know, we can't even finalize SmackDown. We can't even finalize Raw. And you want me to talk about the Royal Rumble? Well, it's not that difficult of a situation to start thinking about. Start throwing some fucking ideas out. Start building that bridge. And then when you eventually get there, start throwing some fucking names out there. I understand why they don't really want to talk about it or why they don't want to plan it, because at the end of the day, everything might just be a waste of fucking time knowing Vince McMahon. Now, Vince could always have an idea in his head. He could always, have an idea here and then change his mind the next day and so on and so forth. That includes who will win the Royal Rumble on the men's and women's side. His mind can also change by the hour, like we mentioned, so there's no telling on what he is going to do throughout any given week leading up to the Royal Rumble. WWE has a lot of things that they need to have happen before the Royal Rumble can even take place. They don't even know where they will hold any of their events outside the Amway Center going into December. We don't know where the Royal Rumble is going to emanate from. So the idea of Big E or Daniel Bryan or Tessa Blanchard or Bianca Belair winning any fucking Royal, or Bayley winning any Royal Rumble is a waste of time right now, because WWE doesn't even know where the event is going to take place, being at the Amway Center, and their contract with the Amway Center is up before the end of the year. But Big E is going to be on the lips of everybody. I know it. I don't think it's right for Big E right now. I think Big E, as I explicitly explained, is set for SummerSlam. I think you do Big E versus Seth Rollins at WrestleMania. And then you start talking about Big E taking the title off of Roman Reigns at SummerSlam. But Daniel Bryan versus Roman Reigns at WrestleMania, if WWE cannot get The Rock versus Roman Reigns, that's what I would go with. That's just me. I think Big E would be set by SummerSlam. Now, everybody's going to be talking about Big E. It's not impossible. He could win it. WWE could obviously hold him off and wait till SummerSlam if they want. But right now, it's simply not something that WWE is even contemplating. They are not right now thinking about the Royal Rumble. And guys, speaking of the Royal Rumble, speaking of WrestleMania, speaking of Roman Reigns, there was a story going around in the last couple of weeks with this whole Tribal Chief storyline. The Rock, it's got to be The Rock. Everybody thought of The Rock when the Tribal Chief moniker was created. And then when Roman Reigns started to deep dive into the gimmick, we started to piece together, oh my God, this must be leading towards The Rock versus Roman Reigns at WrestleMania, right? Now, that is something that's heating up. It's still in the minds and in the mouths of everybody. Speculation is that The Rock is coming back for WrestleMania. And that is the ultimate end goal, even if WWE doesn't want to admit it, even though Roman won't admit it or Paul Heyman won't admit it. He's the ultimate final boss, the ultimate conclusion to this Tribal Chief storyline. But as per theory, WWE wants much more from The Rock than just an appearance or for him to be his regular going out there Hollywood Rock gimmick. Okay? Hollywood Rock was my favorite version of The Rock. He was tremendous in that role. And the fact that we didn't get more Hollywood Rock makes me sad. It really does. I thought he thrived in that role. Same thing with Batista. When Batista became Hollywood Batista, when he was in the fucking wheelchair and John Cena put him out of retirement, I was sad that we didn't get that Dave Batista. Such great roles for those guys. They nailed it. But if The Rock does come back, are we going to see fun-loving, Rudy Poo, Candy Ash, SmackDown Hotel Rock, right? Pie-eating Rock? No. I don't want to see that Rock. I'm telling you right now, that's not going to work with this storyline. This storyline has been so emotional with Jey Uso and Jimmy Uso, with Paul Heyman leading the way here. Roman Reigns just showing you exactly how great of a heel he always could have been. If The Rock is going to come back, I want no Rock talking in the third person. I don't want Rock talking about pies. I don't want Rock talking about SmackDown hotels. I don't want Rock talking about sticking anything up anybody's candy ass. Maybe once. Maybe once. You got to give the fans what they want. But if The Rock is coming back, two things need to happen. One, fans. You're not bringing The Rock back into the fucking Thunderdome with fake fucking crowds, okay? Bullshit. There's either fans at those fucking arenas or no Rock. Fans. Number two, Rock cannot be comedic in any way. You need a serious fucking Rock really going out there and sponsoring Joe Biden for the fucking presidential election. That's the type of shit that you need. You need Dwayne Johnson, who wants to eventually run for fucking president of the United States, Dwayne Johnson out there talking about what is important. That's what needs to happen. You can't have Rudy Poo fucking pie-eating, fucking trailblazing, eyebrow-raising fucking Rock in this situation. You need serious as fucking a heart attack Dwayne Johnson for this role. So if The Rock is coming back, you need that version and you need fans. Now, the idea is that Reigns will be accepted into the Anoa'i family as leader, which pretty much already happened at Hell in a Cell. Alpha and Sika were there, and they raised Roman's hand at the end of Hell in a Cell. Jey Uso has fallen in line. He used Daniel Bryan as a catalyst to turn heel and join Roman Reigns, and the Samoan dynasty is on its way to being formed with Reigns and the Usos, okay? Now, with The Rock, Roman Reigns will be the toughest in the entire family, the leader, the head of the household, the head of the table. WWE is writing the storyline in vein with Roman's family and Roman's background, the Samoan culture. So no one will be able to take Reigns out except the one true leader of the Anoa'i family, and that is The Rock. Now, he'll need to return as the grandson of High Chief Peter Maivia in this situation. We got to get Rock going back to his fucking early days as far as what influenced him to be a pro wrestler in this situation. The son of Rocky Johnson, Dwayne Johnson, to declare his place in the family and give Reigns a reason why he is at the head of the table. Now, unless The Rock is going to be on every Raw, or every SmackDown rather, if The Rock is going to be on every SmackDown, unless he's going to be on every SmackDown, and leading into these shows, into the pay-per-views, into WrestleMania, you can have him come on SmackDown and have him show up after the Elimination Chamber, whatever the case may be. You want to use him before that, whatever the case may be. He needs a good 5-6 weeks easy to build this thing. We're not asking for 6 months from Dwayne Johnson. We're asking him to show up and legitimately cut face-to-face verbal promos with Roman Reigns and Paul Heyman. That's exactly what needs to be done here. The Rock, in my eyes, if The Rock wants to come back, he's going to need to fully engulf himself in this entire story. It's not going to work. It's not going to work if he's not there. I don't need him to beat Brock Lesnar and show up one fucking Monday Night Raw in the entire month and then boom, match at WrestleMania. No, not going to happen. Not going to happen. He needs to be on every SmackDown show moving forward towards WrestleMania. A good 5 or 6 weeks. It's not about entertaining the fans. It's not about fucking cracking jokes and making people laugh. It's about taking the family name back from somebody who is so greedy and so manipulative and such a prick in Roman Reigns that Roman Reigns has forgotten where he came from and who he is. The Rock needs to engulf himself in this entire storyline. In the process, we get the most compelling storyline that WWE has concocted in years on the main roster. Now, the Uso and Reigns storyline might be, right now, some of the best writing that WWE has given us in fucking decades on the main roster. I love everything about it. I love how it's being executed. I love Reigns. I love Uso. I love Heyman. It goes to show you that when you got direction, what WWE could do with its talent. There's talk of a lot more of the Samoan family members getting involved. Not only The Rock, we might see Rikishi, who's the father of Jimmy and Jey Uso, but The Rock is eventually the final conclusion to this storyline, to this Tribal Chief storyline. It will be a different Rock. It needs to be a different Rock. It will be a Rock that goes back on why he got into pro wrestling. A more motivated Rock than we've seen him on recent WWE shows. He'll be far more serious, needs to be. And this could serve as Dwayne Johnson's one final match in WWE. If it's for a storyline that is ingrained in his own family and is going to get Roman Reigns over to the next level, why wouldn't you want this to be your last match? Why wouldn't you want to engulf yourself in this storyline in its entirety? Now, there's talk about it. Will it happen? I don't think so. Will we get that match at WrestleMania? No. That's why I think WWE needs to come up with a plan B or plan C for Roman Reigns. He's got no shortage of opponents on SmackDown if WWE books the babyface side of that show right. Daniel Bryan, Kevin Owens, Big E. You got some names over there. Rey Mysterio. But WWE needs to make this and finalize this as far as this storyline goes. It needs an end. And knowing Paul Heyman, I remember the one thing that Paul Heyman said in a recent, and it wasn't a recent interview, it was an interview just based on creative. The way I do things, he said, is I start at the end and I book backwards. I start at the end. I get us to an end goal. What do you want all of this to do? You start at the end, you come up with an ending, and then you book backwards towards the beginning. If I know anything from Paul Heyman, he already has a conclusion in mind. And if you want Paul Heyman to go out there and talk to The Rock, I'm pretty sure he's already probably done that. Paul Heyman, Roman Reigns, Jey Uso, Jimmy Uso in this entire storyline, will it lead to The Rock? I don't know. But given who's involved, I think we have a good shot of that actually happening. How many of you guys are actually watching Monday Night Raw and Friday Night SmackDown on Fox? Looking at the ratings, I don't think anybody's watching Monday Night Raw. Oh, man. That's hilarious, man. That's fucking hilarious. But I know you guys watch these shows, and I know you feel like me at the end of 3 hours on Monday Night, man. You feel defeated. You feel defeated. Bruce Pritchard is leaving you unmotivated, man. I mean, look at him. Look at him. How could anybody feel motivated when you got a guy like this writing the show? I got the answer for you, man. I could fix all that and cure all your problems. BlueChew.com. Use code JD at checkout for your free samples, man. Today's show is sponsored by my great friends over at Blue Chew. Blue Chew brings you the first chewable with the same FDA-approved active ingredients as Viagra and Cialis. You guys can take them anytime, day or night, even on a full stomach. And since they're chewable, they work up to twice as fast as a pill, so you guys can be ready whenever that opportunity arises. You guys can benefit from more confidence where it counts. Why not give Blue Chew a try? It's the fast and easy way to enhance your performance. Blue Chew is prescribed online by licensed physicians, so you guys don't have to go to the doctor's office, wait in line at the pharmacy, and it ships right to your front door in a very discreet package. They're made in the USA, and since Blue Chew prepares and ships direct, they're cheaper than a pharmacy. And best of all, there's no more awkwardness. Right now, I've got a special deal for everybody listening to episode 349 of OTS right here on the podcast. You guys can actually visit BlueChew.com and get your first shipment free. Yes, free. When you use promo code JD at checkout. All you guys have to do is pay the $5 shipping and handling. Again, guys, that's BlueChew.com, promo code JD at checkout to try it for free. It is the better, cheaper, and faster choice. Bruce Pritchard approved. And I want you guys to support them right here on Off the Script. I gotta be honest with you, man. Outside of Monday Night Raw, obviously, because that show is downright awful. We didn't really get that bad of a week of pro wrestling. Now, you might disagree. I don't really give a shit. You might disagree. But I thought this week of pro wrestling was one of the best we've had all year, to be quite honest with you. Monday Night Raw sucks. The build for Survivor Series is terrible. NXT and AEW killed it on Wednesday night. Both great shows, with NXT being the better of the show. I know, okay? I am always fair and consistent with my opinions, okay? NXT and Halloween Havoc, even though NXT has to rely on gimmicks and reliving old WCW pay-per-views and whatever the case may be, that is the only way they get a ratings win over AEW. But a good show is a good show. And I have to give them credit. It was a great show on Wednesday night. We'll talk about that in just a little bit. SmackDown wasn't all that bad. You got the Roman Reigns storyline. You got the Bayley and Banks storyline. We got Daniel Bryan now being beat down by Jey Uso. Some good stuff over there on SmackDown as well, even though that on some weeks is still not good at all. But it wasn't that bad of a week. It wasn't that bad of a week. Starting with the Wednesday Night Wars, man. NXT Halloween Havoc draws more total viewers than AEW Dynamite, but Dynamite wins the key demographics. Both shows were very good, with NXT inching a victory out over AEW, ending their win streak on Wednesday night. Dynamite drew 781,000 live viewers. NXT did 876,000 live viewers. Last week, AEW drew 753, so they were up. And NXT drew 644. They were definitely up, as is the case in most weeks. AEW won the 18 to 49 demographic. NXT ranked 21 amongst the top 150 shows on cable TV, while AEW was 12. NXT had the Halloween Havoc theme and loaded the show up with 2 title matches, as well as having an 8-minute overrun, which I'm sure aided in their Wednesday night victory. But the demographic in the 18 to 49 viewership was AEW with a 0.32 and NXT with a 0.25. AEW beat them in all other demographics that were important for the TV ratings, except the viewers over 50, where NXT did 0.43 and AEW did a 0.29. Now, quickly going over briefly what happened on Dynamite, we had Hangman Page advancing in the Eliminator Tournament over Wardlow. Very good match. I think Wardlow's coming into his own. I think Wardlow's presence is something that we need to keep an eye on. Very good at what he does, but he's in a match with Hangman, and it's difficult to have a bad match with Hangman when Paige himself is very good at what he does. Predictable, yes, but it made sense. And we'll go over why I think it was predictable and why it really shouldn't matter in a little bit. But we had Adam Page beating Wardlow. Very good match between the two. We had Eddie Kingston beating Matt Sydal, which is nothing more of an exhibition match for Eddie Kingston as he goes on to wrestle Jon Moxley at the pay-per-view at Full Gear on Saturday night, which I will be live for. I will be live for that on YouTube this coming Saturday. You got to give Eddie Kingston and Jon Moxley credit, because even when the storyline might not be important to you or it might not be exciting to you, it is their verbal ability to sell something on their history when there really isn't much history outside of what we've seen on AEW, the Battle Royal, and yada, yada, yada between these two. The fact that they are selling this storyline based off what they can do promo-wise is a testament to how good they are. And we got one more opportunity at this on Wednesday when they meet face-to-face, which should be explosive in its own right. You know? Many of you might not care about the Eddie Kingston versus Jon Moxley match, but the fact that they're turning this into a personal affair has got my interest. Might not be a pay-per-view main event to you, but the fact that the story is so good, I don't care, because they got me. And it's an I Quit match, and I honestly think it's going to be a great showing for both Eddie Kingston and Jon Moxley. So we got that on Dynamite. Eddie Kingston beat Matt Sydal. Young Bucks and Matt Jackson with Nick Jackson were interviewed by Excalibur. We got FTR and the Young Bucks being interviewed by Excalibur, and they walked out, which was kind of showing you exactly where FTR sits on this entire thing and where the Young Bucks are going with their gimmick. And then the stipulation was made that if the Young Bucks do not beat FTR, then they will never get another AEW Tag Team title match. I don't really like that. I don't feel like that was needed in this situation. To me, it kind of makes it overly predictable. But then on the other hand, Cody Rhodes did the same thing. Cody Rhodes can't get another world title match as long as he is in AEW. So it could be a situation where they do the same thing that they did with Cody, or they go the predictable route. Either way, I don't think it was needed in this tag team title match, which a lot of people are claiming will be one of the best tag team matches, if not the best tag team match all year, man. They got a high bar. They got a high bar. Will it be better than Paige Omega versus the Young Bucks? Probably not. Probably not. Just the atmosphere alone is not going to bring this match to that standard. But I'm not going to sit here and tell you they don't have a shot. They absolutely do have a shot. And knowing that these four guys are involved in this, and this match is 2+ years in the making, it's going to be great. Can't wait to see what those guys do. Town hall meeting with the Inner Circle, Jericho and MJF. That was really good. We seen Mr. Eric Bischoff show up there and really have a nice role in that town hall meeting. And the match was made for Full Gear. It was MJF versus Chris Jericho. We don't know where that's going to go. Is Jericho going to win over this situation? Is MJF going to go on his own? Is MJF going to beat Jericho? Is this something that is going to lead to the breakup of the Inner Circle? Because Jericho is giving MJF a shot while the other guys in the Inner Circle don't really want this to happen. We don't know. We don't know. Could it be a situation where he's in the Inner Circle, everybody has to live with it, MJF uses Jericho and then turns on him anyway? Because MJF knows that the Inner Circle took care of Moxley once before. Maybe he's using the Inner Circle to take care of Moxley for his own personal gain. We don't know. We don't know. We got Orange Cassidy versus Cody Rhodes lumberjack match. I didn't really care about it. I didn't really like the ending. Cody Rhodes wins in a very lackluster way. He now goes on to Full Gear against Darby Allin for the TNT title. Orange Cassidy, I don't know what they do with him after he beat Jericho. He had a great match against Brody Lee. He went to a time limit draw with Cody, and then they want to have him go against Cody for a second time and have him lose. I don't really understand that. To me, the outcome should have been another time limit draw. Use that to your advantage, and then you get a triple threat match with Orange, Cody, and Darby at the pay-per-view. That's what I thought would be best, but they didn't do that. Now we got Cody versus Darby. And does Darby take the TNT title from Cody Rhodes? I don't know. I don't know. So we'll see what happens. In some circles, a lot of people are frustrated with Cody having the TNT title again. Some people are actually saying that he should have never even beaten Brody Lee for the title, and that it should have been Brody Lee versus Darby Allin at the pay-per-view, with Darby going over and him getting the rub from Brody, because Brody was so over in whatever he was doing after he laid out Cody. I don't know, man. I honestly think it should be written much better. That's just my take on that. And then we got Serena Deeb versus Layla Hirsch. Serena Deeb won. She's the new NWA champion. We talked about this on the post show about Thunder Rosa. Is she interested in WWE? Is she staying with AEW? Is she staying with NWA? We don't know. We don't know. Billy Corgan came out and said that Thunder Rosa is signed to NWA through 2021. So I hope all of those rumors are now put to rest. Will she end up in WWE? I don't know. Dave Meltzer said that he heard that Thunder Rosa told NWA that she wants to go to WWE. So I don't know what's going to happen. Thunder Rosa in WWE doesn't sit well with me. In NXT, fine. But as far as advancing yourself in that company, I see nothing on WWE's end with Thunder Rosa. Nothing. I don't think that is the right decision at all. NXT, she will be queen of NXT if she wants to. But the main roster, there is a small ceiling on everybody in that company, and it's very difficult to care about someone you like so much and then knowing where they're going to eventually end up. And that's exactly how everybody feels. Deeb beat Layla Hirsch, and then we had the match of the week, maybe. Kenny Omega versus Penta El Zero Miedo, Penta El Zero M with Rey Fenix. This was the semifinals of the World Title Eliminator Tournament match. Kenny Omega won. Phoenix was replaced by his brother Penta in this match. They tore the house down. It's easy to book Omega and Phoenix after the fact. Tony Khan made a precautionary call on Rey Fenix's behalf. It's easy to book him back into that situation because he never lost. He deserves an opportunity These guys tore the house down. We now got Kenny Omega versus Adam Hangman Page for the finals of this tournament at Full Gear. Does Omega win? Does Paige win? And I honestly think this is the right call. This tournament was set up to get us to care about this feud. It might have taken a back seat, but instead of just booking the match, they gave you a reason to care and gave you a road to get to this match, which I appreciate. But yes, this match will be something that I am highly invested in, and where this storyline goes after that remains to be seen, man. Either one of these guys can win, but I honestly think Omega winning, accentuating his heel turn, taking the title from Jon Moxley, him becoming the man in 2021, and we can revisit this for a second time next year, maybe at Double or Nothing, maybe at Full Gear, maybe at All Out. Sometime in the next year, coming out of this pay-per-view next Saturday, I think that we will get Omega versus Paige for the world title. And it's going to be Paige taking the world title from Omega. That's where I think this is going to end up. So if you guys want more thoughts on my AEW analysis and everything that I think about whatever's going on with AEW, post-show on Wednesday is the place to be. Me and Jesse break it all down. We love doing it. And if you guys missed that, as far as Wednesday's show goes, link is down in the description of this very video. NXT was very good, man. Better show than AEW. I will always admit who is the best show. NXT was the better show. I loved Halloween Havoc, from the vibe of the Capitol Wrestling Center to the inflatable pumpkin that Johnny Gargano stabbed and deflated. I loved it. The graveyards, the tombstones, the costumes, everybody just feeling very festive for Halloween. Everything was great for Halloween Havoc. They nailed it, which makes me sad that we didn't see this as a standalone pay-per-view on the main roster. Look at how much fun Triple H made it. Why it's not a staple in November, or October rather, for the main roster, I don't know. But Johnny Gargano's the new North American champion. He beat Damian Priest in a great match. I love both guys, man. They are so good at what they do, and they have great chemistry together. Devil's Playground match for the North American title. Johnny Gargano wins by tossing Damian Priest off of a platform behind the commentary table with the help of someone in a Scream mask. Yes, we're resurrecting 1990s serial killers, helping Johnny Gargano regain the North American title. He took a tombstone to Damian Priest, and he goes flying off the platform that they were standing on, where the wheel was. Spin the wheel, make the deal. And Johnny Gargano pins Damian Priest to regain the North American Championship. Two-time North American champion is Johnny Gargano. Pete Dunne joined Pat McAfee, Oney Lorcan, and Danny Burch to assault Kyle O'Reilly. Seems like this team for War Games is being set up. You know, I learned my lesson, man. Pat McAfee kind of shut everybody up against Adam Cole when he had his match against Adam Cole. And I'm looking at this through a different set of eyes right now. The guy can obviously talk. The guy can obviously hold his own. And I feel sad for Ridge Holland in all of this. This was supposed to be Ridge Holland in this situation. Not an Oney Lorcan, not a Danny Burch, not a Pete Dunne. We don't know when any of these guys, if any of them, were going to be in this situation. But this was Ridge Holland. And I feel bad that this opportunity now was taken away from him for recklessness, when something like that shouldn't have even happened. So they bring in Pat McAfee. Now, the last guy I was thinking about for this role is Pat McAfee. He hired somebody to take out Adam Cole. I guess it works looking back at it, but is it going to do me any good to complain further about why Pat McAfee's there? Pat McAfee's not going to give you a ratings boost. Pat McAfee's not going to bring more eyes to NXT. He's not. No matter what he does on YouTube, analytics-wise, or who he is, or what type of attention he generates outside of NXT, he's not going to be a guy that generates interest. But with what he did on NXT, in his match against Cole, the way he handles himself on the microphone, I don't have a problem with that. Pat McAfee's probably better than 95% of the active WWE roster in total on the microphone. So why would I be upset with somebody that can clearly cut a great promo, who knows how to get you excited about something, who knows how to trash talk? He did great. Now he's got Lorcan. Now he's got Birch. They finally won the tag team titles. Good for them. It's been a long time coming for them. It's good to see them a little bit elevated in this thing. Pete Dunne came back, turned his back as a babyface, turned heel, right? He smashed Kyle O'Reilly with a chair, kind of got back at the Undisputed Era for turning on him. It was Roderick Strong that turned on him. Now he got back at the Undisputed Era. So if you go back years to when Roderick Strong joined the Undisputed Era, Pete Dunne's involvement in this comes full circle. That makes sense. So I like that aspect as well. And Pat McAfee joining these guys and hiring these guys to take out all of these guys have history with Undisputed Era. I don't know if that was done by design. I don't know if that was done as a happy accident. I don't know, but it works. Rich Holland might not be there, but somehow they made it work in this proposed war game situation for the Undisputed Era against Pat McAfee's team. Will there be a war games? I don't know. Clearly, they're not having war games in the Capitol Wrestling Center. Too small to house 2 rings and 2 steel cages like that. Will it be in the Thunderdome? I don't know. Will it be in another location that we don't know of? I don't know. This clearly looks like a war game situation to me. Will it be a war game situation come December 7th? I don't know. But I loved it. I thought it was great. Pat McAfee can cut a great fucking promo. Santos Escobar defeated Jake Atlas in a non-title match. It is what it is. I don't care. Dexter Lumis and Cameron Grimes. My good old boy Cameron Grimes in a Haunted House of Terror match. This was pretty entertaining. Dexter Lumis, man. My God, you could cast him in a role like this in any movie and he'd blow any of the candidates away. Awesome. And the women that they had playing zombies and fucking crab walking upside down and freaking out Cameron Grimes, man, they did a really good job. Whoever the makeup artist is for these women on this night for Halloween Havoc, they did a fantastic job, and they looked fucking creepy. They really did, especially the shower scene with Cameron Grimes. He sees this silhouette of a beautiful woman behind the shower curtain, and he's escaping Dexter Lumis. He thinks he's found himself a nice, peaceful environment, and he takes his shirt off. He's acting all macho and whatever. He takes his shirt off. He's about to get into the shower with this woman. And she comes out dressed as a zombie, and she's like crab walking upside down. It was entertaining as fuck, man. Grimes is entertaining. Lumis is phenomenal at what he does, man. There is such a high ceiling for Dexter Lumis. And he's a damn good in-ring performer. I enjoyed this. I really did. I actually enjoyed this more than the John Cena and Bray Wyatt match at WrestleMania. I enjoyed this more than the Velveteen Dream Adam Cole cinematic match that they had. I thought this was great. I really did. I enjoyed this better than the Swamp match between Bray Wyatt and Braun Strowman. Really, really good stuff here by Lumis and by Cameron Grimes. We got Rhea Ripley versus Raquel Gonzalez. This was good. I know there are a few people that did not like this. I'm not really sold on Raquel Gonzalez either. I'm not. But this was good. The reason why I like this so much, and Rhea Ripley I'm not a fan of anymore, man. They killed all of her mystique when she lost to Charlotte Flair. She has not, in my eyes anyway, not recovered. Not recovered. She should be ready for the main roster. You could call her up now and she'd be ready for the main roster. I just don't get that feeling about Rhea Ripley anymore. I once did, and now I don't. But this match with Raquel Gonzalez, I'm not sold on Raquel Gonzalez, but I like this match so much because every single time I watch a main roster match, it's either with somebody that's afraid to break a fingernail or afraid to have fucking hair extensions fall out and they frail around and they fucking float around like they don't know what the fuck they're doing, a.k.a. Billy Kay, right? You fucking geeks out there, Billy Kay. This was a match that you had 2 physical women in and they legitimately beat the shit out of one another. If you aren't in the ring to beat the shit out of one another and show why you are better than your opponent, then why the fuck are you in this profession? I don't want women that are going to go in there and frail around and fucking pretend like they're at a beauty salon. I want women like these 2 here that went in there and gave you an intense battle. That's exactly what we got. Ripley beat Raquel Gonzalez. I enjoyed it. For the 10 minutes that it wasn't a scientific match. You're not going to get fucking rest holds and fucking a variety of submission moves from Raquel Gonzalez. She's big, she's strong, and she's wanting to beat the shit out of Rhea Ripley. And that's exactly what we got. Rhea Ripley got the win with the Riptide, and that was it. Great shit. We got Io Shirai defeating Candice LeRae in a tables, ladders, and scares match. Ooh. Instead of tables, ladders, and chairs, you see what they did there? Yeah. So, I'm surprised by this, honestly. I thought Candice LeRae, after Johnny won, was going to win, and they were going to go and do the wife and husband couple as champions, but that did not happen. We had Io Shirai dominating the match for most of the match, and then we got, at the end, we had this Scream Mask individual try and help Candice LeRae again, and they tried to help Candice climb her way to the ladder. Then we got Shotzi Blackheart joining in, and she stopped the interference, clearing way for Shirai to launch LeRae from the ladder over the top rope through another ladder that was positioned on the outside as a bridge from the announce table to the ring apron, and Io Shirai climbs to the top, and Io Shirai retains the title. Really good stuff there. Speaking of Shotzi, she did a fabulous job as host. I thought it was going to be cringe, but they kept it to a minimum. She was in costumes all night. She played the role of mistress all night. She spun the wheel. She came off really well, man. That was, as far as Shotzi in the ring, I enjoy what she does in the ring, but as far as what she's done so far in totality on NXT, to me, that was the biggest star-making performance for Shotzi Blackheart on the NXT brand. So she should be very happy about the performance. And if there is another Halloween Havoc, I don't see any better of a host than Shotzi Blackheart, man. She did a fabulous job hosting on Wednesday night. Monday Night Raw. The ratings on Monday night, they were not good. They were not good, man. According to Showbuzz Daily, the show averaged 1.732 million viewers on the USA Network. This is down from 1.777. It went up against Week 6 of Monday Night Football, which featured the Chicago Bears, Chicago Bears and the Los Angeles Rams, that did 10.501 million viewers on ESPN. This marked the post-show edition of Raw for Hell in a Cell on Sunday night. The 18 to 49 demos saw Hour 1 at 0.54, a 0.51 for Hour 2, and a 0.47 in Hour 3. The hourly breakdown was as follows. 8 p.m. was a 1.859. That was actually up from last week. A 1.752 for Hour number 2. That's down from last week. And a 1.585 million viewership. That's down from last week's Hour 3. That's got to be a historic low. The show featured Jeff Hardy versus AJ Styles, Sheamus versus Matt Riddle, Keith Lee versus Elias, and fallout from the Hell in a Cell, including Randy Orton becoming the new WWE champion. Like I mentioned, we got AJ Styles advancing to the Survivor Series, beating Jeff Hardy. Lucha House Party defeated Akira Tozawa and Drew Gulak while that shit's still on the show. Boggles my fucking mind. Keith Lee defeated Elias in about 10 minutes. This is the same guy that took care of Randy Orton in 8 minutes. He's struggling with Elias. I don't really get these people, man. They know they have to book Keith Lee strong. They know they want to book Elias strong. So why would you book two guys that you want to book strong in a same match where there's no real logical outcome? I don't really get it. Keith Lee won anyway. He defeated Elias thanks to Jeff Hardy. It is what it is, man. Keith Lee, he does not feel the same, man. In fact, he's getting worse. I don't know how that's even possible. The Hurt Business versus Retribution. They did a tag team elimination match. What was it, 3 weeks from that Monday? 3 weeks before Survivor Series. Yeah, that makes all the sense in the world there, Bruce. Retribution is dead. Dead. Drew McIntyre defeated The Miz. That was stemming from the opening of the show where Miz was kind of taunting Drew McIntyre with the Money in the Bank briefcase. He wasn't even the WWE champion anymore. He lost it to Randy Orton at Hell in a Cell. He's taunting somebody that's not the champion anymore. Dumb. Lana wins a fatal 4-way to join Team Raw. Who gives a shit? Lacey Evans, Nikki Cross, and Peyton Royce, and Lana, of all people. Then they put her through a table. That's the new thing. That's the running gag on Monday night. Sheamus defeated Matt Riddle to qualify for the Survivor Series. Probably up there with the Penta versus Kenny Omega match for the week. Excellent match between these two. And a match that opened up the eyes of Vince McMahon to Matt Riddle. So Matt Riddle might be getting a new renewed push on Monday night thanks to this match. And then we got The Fiend. He was stalking Randy Orton and Randy Orton was also being stalked by Drew McIntyre. It looks like we are getting a three-way of sorts for the world title on Monday Night Raw, the WWE title between Bray Wyatt, Randy Orton, and Drew McIntyre. How any good comes out of that, I have no fucking idea, and why you would be excited about a Fiend versus Randy Orton match for the WWE title, knowing that they had one of the worst fucking matches in WrestleMania history a couple of years back. Why would you be excited? I don't get it. The story seems to be fine. Tell me the story, but if you're excited about the match, I'm telling you right now, man, you are setting yourself up for disappointment. Cut the shit. Cut the shit. That was Monday Night Raw. SmackDown. SmackDown happened on Friday. The ratings for SmackDown. I actually got ratings for SmackDown for the last 2 weeks. I'm not sure if you guys gave a shit about the ratings for SmackDown the week before because they were on FS1. They actually drew 881,000 viewers on FS1, so I'm not going to count the FS1 day. I'm not. So this past Friday's episode drew a 2.133 million viewership. That was up from the 881,000 on FS1. So SmackDown's right back to where they usually go with the 2.1 area. The first hour saw a 2.115 million viewership, while hour 2 did a 2.151 million viewership. So it was actually up in hour 2. The show did 1.978 million viewers in hour 1, while the hour 2 did 1.995 2 weeks ago. So they were up pretty decently for this week's show. It also pulled in an average of a 0.60 rating in the 18 to 49 demographic, which was number 2 for the night. That is up from the 0.25 rating the show did in the 18 to 49 demo on FS1. So SmackDown, the continuation of the Roman Reigns versus Jey Uso storyline. If you guys want my complete thoughts on that, breakdown from Friday's show, live stream is on the channel right now. We had that continuing. Roman Reigns promised Jey Uso he would fall in line by the end of the night, which is exactly what happened. Kevin Owens versus Dolph Ziggler, good match, but nobody gives a shit. Kevin Owens qualified for the Survivor Series team on the men's side. Bianca Belair, rightfully so, qualified, defeating Billie Kay and Natalya in a triple threat match. It's kind of embarrassing that Bianca Belair had to be straddled in the ring with these two clowns. We had Buddy Murphy and Aaliyah now officially in a relationship on screen, with Aaliyah Mysterio saying to Buddy Murphy, "I love you," telling her father, Ray, "I love him." I got news on SmackDown. Come Friday's podcast, man. Friday's post show, I got major news. If you guys thought SmackDown felt or looked any different tonight, there's a reason for that. I got plenty of news coming out of SmackDown that I will not address here, man. I'll give you guys a little tease for Friday's live stream. Murphy extended the olive branch to the Mysterios. Obviously, that was not, but he's got the Mysterio that he wants. It is now Aaliyah. They are in an on-screen relationship. I don't really know where this goes, unless this is all setting up Aaliyah and Buddy Murphy is going to reveal that he's been with Rollins the entire time. I don't know. What does he want? What does he want? Please get your mind out of the fucking gutter. I know what he wants. Theoretically, I know what he wants, but realistically, wrestling-wise, storyline-wise, what does he want? What does he want? Rey Mysterio has nothing. What does he want from the family? It's not like Rey Mysterio has a fucking title. The Mysterios don't have any fucking title or any power on this show. What does he want? What does he want? What is he using Aaliyah here for? If that is the case, what do they want from the Mysterios? They don't have anything on this show. So at the end of the day, when there's a conclusion to this, if there is a conclusion, what is going to be the reason why Murphy wants Aaliyah and why Rollins is still feuding with the Mysterios? And if it comes to it, why would Buddy Murphy be manipulating Aaliyah to get back at the Mysterios? For what? I would love for somebody to please tell me in the comments what you think it could be. Outside of the obvious here between a 32-year-old and a 19-year-old. So that was that. We had the Street Profits defeating Cesaro and Shinsuke Nakamura before they go on to wrestle the New Day at the Survivor Series. Sasha Banks and Bayley. Bayley challenged Sasha Banks to a SmackDown Women's title rematch next week. And Jey Uso defeated Daniel Bryan to qualify for the SmackDown Survivor Series men's team. Great beatdown at the end of the show. I questioned if this was done the right way, and I don't really want to question anything Paul Heyman's doing because this has been near perfect right now. But does this mean we get Daniel Bryan versus Roman Reigns before WrestleMania? That's the only thing I'm caring about. Was Daniel Bryan used just to facilitate a heel turn for Jey Uso and have him fall in line and prove Roman Reigns right all along? Or is Daniel Bryan going to be now involved in this and seek revenge against the Samoan dynasty and go after Roman Reigns in the WWE Universal title before WrestleMania? I hope not. I hope they save it. That's a WrestleMania match if you can't get The Rock versus Reigns at WrestleMania. Those are my thoughts there. Those are the ratings breakdowns for each show. That is what's going on as far as what happened on the shows this week. As far as news coming out of the shows, why Miz won Money in the Bank. There's news on why Miz won Money in the Bank from Otis. WWE clearly gave Otis the briefcase, like I mentioned before, for shock and awe. Ringside News has learned that Otis losing the Money in the Bank briefcase to The Miz was just another week to go, hey, let's change things up. The company was looking for shock value, which is why Otis won the briefcase in the first place. A tenured member of the team told us at Ringside News that, and they say, and I quote, it's really as stupid and insane and impatient and all of that rolled into one. Vince McMahon wanted a big moment, so he booked one to happen immediately, end quote. This is what happens. I hope they learn their lesson. We know they won't. Do not book for shock value alone. If you want to book shock value, at least have it make sense. WWE booked for shock value, and now they find themselves in a situation where Otis was the Money in the Bank briefcase holder. Now you got The Miz holding the Money in the Bank briefcase. What exactly changed from Otis and The Miz? They're both comedy characters. What exactly is different here? Otis was never going to win a WWE Universal title, and neither is The Miz. So what exactly did we do here? You might as well have used it for the greater good and have it made sense. You could have given it to Mandy Rose to get her back over to SmackDown. You could have used it in the Sonya Deville-Mandy Rose situation at SummerSlam, where Mandy or Sonya, depending on who won that match, if Sonya Deville won that match and had to cut Mandy Rose's hair, you could have given it up in that situation for Otis to say, you know what, don't cut my precious Peach's hair. And Sonya would be the Money in the Bank briefcase holder. You could have used it, if you didn't break up Tucker and Otis, for a tag team title opportunity. Even though that doesn't make sense, any one of these would have made sense. But now you find yourself circled back in the same position where you were when Otis had the fucking briefcase. So what exactly did you do here? Unbelievable, man. It doesn't make any fucking sense. Miz is not cashing in on Randy Orton. No. Give me a break. We got Vince McMahon pushing Lars Sullivan as the only new talent in WWE that's on his radar. Dave Meltzer discussed and noted on the latest Observer radio show that Lars Sullivan is the only guy Vince McMahon and other WWE higher-ups want to elevate on the card right now. So goodbye Keith Lee, goodbye Ricochet, goodbye Cedric, goodbye all these other people, Matt Riddle, right? Bianca Belair, goodbye. Nobody else is a priority but Lars Sullivan, the freak. Lars Sullivan. Meltzer says, and I quote, there's nobody. Nobody. But when you're talking about one guy that they're elevating, Lars Sullivan, that's it. That's the guy. End quote. There are other people that WWE should be pushing, and Lars Sullivan should definitely be one of them, but you can't disperse 100% of your quality or 100% of your efforts into Lars Sullivan. Everybody's got to get a piece of the fucking pizza pie over here. Lars Sullivan gets a slice. Keith Lee maybe gets 2 slices. Matt Riddle gets a slice and a half. Whatever. What are we doing here? You can't give Lars Sullivan all of the pizza pie. You need everybody to eat from this table. But this is the way Vince McMahon operates. While he's elevating Lars Sullivan, the value of Keith Lee and Matt Riddle and Bianca Belair and everybody else that was called up from NXT, they are going to sink, and Lars Sullivan's going to rise. And what happens when we get to that point? When Sullivan's up here and everybody else is down there, nobody's going to care about the ascent or the rise of everybody else because you buried them so fucking far. This guy's got to go is all I know. What a shitty fucking mentality. Because you like somebody, that doesn't mean you got to fucking shit on everybody else. You can't run one show around Lars Sullivan. That's the one guy you want to push. And why does he want to push him? Because he likes Lars Sullivan? Great. Lars Sullivan's got a lot of upside if you book him correctly. But, or is he doing it because Vince knows of all the trouble that Lars Sullivan's been in, and he doesn't give a fuck about doing it? He may be doing it on purpose just to get back at everybody else. I'm going to make you into something because everybody else doesn't. How much of that has to do with it? I could see Vince McMahon operating under that pretense, man. I really could. You can't forget about everybody else. You got to start sharing the wealth on Monday and Friday night. Drew McIntyre. Backstage reaction to why Drew McIntyre lost the WWE title at Hell in a Cell. Fightful Select reports that WWE superstars were very confused by WWE taking the title of Drew McIntyre and placing it on Randy Orton for the 14th time. Most of the wrestlers that we spoke to were also confused about the timing of the move, considering he was heavily protected from WrestleMania to SummerSlam and then beaten several times since. Drew McIntyre is set to kick off Monday Night Raw on the night after losing the WWE title, which exactly he did. And he had a lot to say there. He's obviously not out of the title picture yet. He's still feuding with Randy Orton. He's still feuding with the WWE Championship in mind. He's got The Fiend now chasing it as well because The Fiend is coming after Randy Orton. Oh my God, Randy Orton's the WWE title. Or the WWE Champion. Let's feud Bray Wyatt and bring back the old Wyatt family storyline where Randy Orton burned down the Wyatt family compound. That's exactly what we're going to do. So I don't know how any of that is interesting to any of you right now. It's going to be the same thing, probably a little bit better storyline-wise, as far as Randy Orton comparing himself to Braun Strowman. But I don't see how anybody would be interested in a feud which results in a match between those two. I really don't. And Drew McIntyre, everybody was confused. What are you confused by? WWE is doing what they do best. They didn't know where else to go with Drew McIntyre. Even after a draft, they didn't know where to go with Drew McIntyre. Why did they take the WWE title off of Drew McIntyre? I'll give it a simple answer, folks. They got bored. They got bored. Now, this doesn't mean Drew McIntyre's never going to win the WWE title again. They'll probably cycle back to him being champion maybe late next year. But the fact of the matter is, they got bored. They didn't know what to do with Drew McIntyre going into WrestleMania. They're looking at WrestleMania as far as WWE title. What is going to make the card better? What is going to give us more, I would say, fan interest? Drew McIntyre against some fucking scrub on Monday Night Raw? Or is it going to be Randy Orton versus Edge in the final confrontation these guys have? Probably an I Quit match for the WWE title. What's more interesting, Drew McIntyre taking the title into WrestleMania or having somebody that was retired for 9 years take the WWE title off of Randy Orton in Edge? That's exactly what they're thinking. They got bored. They had no other plans for Drew McIntyre. That is why they did what they did. That is why they did what they did. And why did Drew McIntyre lose several times on the way to Hell in a Cell? Because they needed to sell Randy Orton to get their point across. Their vision needed to be a reality, and that was the only way that they could, because they booked themselves into a corner. I'm not a scientist here, folks, but it's simple mathematics. Simple. WWE needed a reason for Randy Orton and Drew McIntyre to happen again at the Hell in a Cell because there was no other way of doing it. There was nobody else in line on Monday Night Raw before that match happened to put in there against Drew McIntyre, feud against Drew McIntyre. So they needed to do it, no matter how illogical it was. They needed to beat him in order to get the match to make sense. Now we're looking at Drew McIntyre versus Randy Orton again. Spare me. Drew McIntyre versus The Fiend. Spare me. The Fiend versus Randy Orton. Please. Give me a break. This is what you're going to hang your hat on Monday nights? Give me a fucking NyQuil and let me fucking pass out on the couch. Speaking of passing out, never mind passing out, man. I'm taking the channel and flipping over to my boy Guy. Lana. WWE still has big plans for Lana as a babyface. During Wrestling Observer Live, Meltzer explained that WWE's plan for Lana is to turn her into a babyface. That has not changed. It was previously reported that the company wants to turn Lana into a mega babyface, and that is still in motion. They're using these constant table break spots to make that happen. I quote, I was told by the second or third, that's exactly what this storyline resembles, a turd. Second or third table break that she's going to get. And the idea was that they're going to put her through a table over and over again, not only expect her, but to be a hot babyface, absolutely. Whether it happens or not is a different story, but absolutely that is the reason why. So WWE thinks that putting Lana through a table every single week, which now has accumulated to 6 weeks in a row, WWE thinks that by putting Lana through a table every single week, it's going to get her over as a babyface eventually. First of all, folks, WWE, Bruce, Vince, and any geek that's writing these shows, for me to care about somebody, I would initially have to care at the start of all of this. I'd have to first care about the character involved. How many of you give a shit about Lana to a point where if she's put through a table 6, 12, 24, 48, 96 times, how many of those table breaks are going to matter to you? Are you going to care at the end of it all? The answer is no. The answer is no. Why? Because you don't care. You don't care about Lana. Everybody only cared about Miro when they were a couple in WWE. Miro was always the star of that fucking duo. Lana is not a pro wrestler. She's another one of these cosplay pro wrestlers in WWE. Folks, you would have to care about Lana to get this babyface turn or this babyface sympathy to matter. And that just is not going to happen. Because you're putting her through a table for your petty reasons because her husband went to the enemy team. Now you expect me to care about the one woman that we didn't give a shit about in this entire fucking Miro-Rusev dilemma? Who cares? Who cares? It's not going to work. You could put her through a table for the entire year and all of next year, and it's not going to work. Get your fucking pettiness across. Get your ha, it's funny, and gorilla out of your fucking systems and move on from this shit. Lana should be a valet, and that's the extent of Lana's ability. She sucks as an in-ring performer. And if you don't think so, I don't know what the fuck you're watching on Monday night. Lana on the Raw Women's Survivor Series team, man. If you think that is a proper evolution of the women's division, my God, man, you have absolutely horrid taste to a point where I don't even think I want to know any of you, period. I don't even want you watching this fucking program. Moving on. And there's not much left. WWE and Jeff Hardy being on Monday Night Raw sets up a perfect situation for him and Bray Wyatt at WrestleMania. I booked it. I talked about it. I don't know why they wouldn't do it. Bray Wyatt and titles mean nothing to me, man. Bray Wyatt is allergic to titles. Why you're putting him back in a title situation that he's not going to win, I don't understand. You're just going to hurt the character even more than you've already done. So feud him against somebody that has similar characteristics and similar traits. Jeff Hardy versus The Fiend at WrestleMania makes for a great match, whether it's cinematic or not. Jeff Hardy pitched a storyline angle with himself and The Fiend, Bray Wyatt. He spoke to Sports Illustrated. He proposed the idea to bring in Willow to the WWE Universe. His goal is to make a feud with Bray Wyatt happen. And he has a pretty good idea about how to accomplish that. He says, I want Willow to have something to do with The Fiend, Bray Wyatt, though what that is, I'm not sure yet. That's the one struggle right now that I'm trying to find inside my head. I'm thinking that Willow is stuck in a little black and white TV, similar to the Twilight Zone in the Firefly Funhouse. Maybe The Fiend beats Jeff Hardy, and that's why I transformed into Willow. It's cool that pro wrestling allows all of this creativity to exist. For me, It's always been where my dreams come true, and still, that is the way it is for me to this day. Now, that's what he said during a Sports Illustrated interview. It's unclear how motivated WWE is to actually get this to happen, but I think people would pop if Jeff Hardy versus Bray Wyatt actually happens on a random fucking pay-per-view, right? You build towards the feud, you get Bray Wyatt and the Fiend, Bray Wyatt or whoever, the Fiend, Bray Wyatt, whatever, Mr. Rogers or the Fiend against Jeff Hardy, and Jeff Hardy loses, and somehow he's trapped in the Firefly Funhouse, and you play it off in a very cinematic way, and you let these two guys run with it, creativity-wise. You just let them go balls to the wall with their creativity, man. I guarantee you, if Vince or Bruce or fucking Michael Hayes or somebody in creative is not a part of this, and you let just Wyndham Rotunda and Jeff Hardy have fun with this and build the feud towards WrestleMania, I guarantee you it would be an interesting aspect that could steal the show at WrestleMania. Whatever the case may be, if this is the case, let them do it. What else do you got going on for Bray Wyatt? He's not going to be the WWE champion. He should not even sniff the WWE title. Stop putting him in positions where he's losing and then being a champion and then dropping the title. If the entire mentality was for you guys to beat the Fiend and weaken him, you've already done that. So why must you do that and do it all over again? Start building this guy up from the ground up again and make him feel important, because right now he doesn't. The Fiend feels important right now because of Alexa Bliss. What does that say about how relevant the Fiend is on WWE television when you got Alexa Bliss stealing the show? And that's exactly what she's been doing. That doesn't really bode well for Bray Wyatt. Let them go. And finally, guys, I noticed this. I was actually going to save this for Friday's podcast coming up for the SmackDown post show, but I'll end it with this. I wanted to mention this on Friday night, this past Friday night when I did the post show on Off the Script for SmackDown. I don't know how many of you guys noticed and have noticed in the recent weeks. Why is Kevin Owens wearing jeans as his in-ring attire? I always wanted to ask this question to you guys, stemming from the last 3 weeks or so, and I just completely forgot. It was just one of those things where it wasn't important to me, but I noticed it, and I failed to bring it to everybody's attention. But why is he wearing jeans? And why has he moved away from his traditional in-ring gear? Now, he was asked this. He was asked this on Twitter. And Owens actually responded to a fan who asked about this situation. And he wrote the following. One of the most successful wrestlers of all time wore jorts for most of his career. I'm trying to subtly get there. First I wear shorts for years, then I wear jeans, then one day, boom, jorts. Except this way, nobody notices anything out of the ordinary when I do. End quote. Whether he's being serious or if he's just joking around, I mean, I could absolutely see that happening. Maybe that's exactly what he wants to do. Isn't his son's favorite wrestler John Cena? Maybe not to this day anymore, I mean, I don't know. But that was the whole storyline when Owens made his first in-ring debut on Monday Night Raw. His son. His favorite wrestler was John Cena. Now, again, I don't know if that's the case or not, but either way, no matter what Owens is wearing, I don't even give a fuck what he's wearing, man. Get the guy on TV and give him a priority role. You had him as a fucking Canadian version of Stone Cold Steve Austin on this show, rebelling and stunning and just cool, and you moved away from that. And WWE moved away from that because he was getting too popular. WWE doesn't like when you get too popular, right? Because it's not in the cards, not in their plan. So they killed him off, they iced him off for a little bit, and they kept him at this middle of the road fucking, he's there, but he's not really there. I want to care, but I can't bring myself to care vibe. They need to get Kevin Owens back in a situation. I could definitely see him being somebody along the line, in a line of opponents for Roman Reigns to be built up, look good, and for Roman to eventually defeat. And I could definitely see him like I booked at WrestleMania against Sami Zayn for the Intercontinental title. That's not your Intercontinental title match at WrestleMania. I don't know what the fuck is going to be. That is your quintessential. And I know we've seen it time and time again, but man, oh man. Is it going to be a bad match? No. Is it going to bring prestige back to the Intercontinental title? Yes. Is there anybody better to stop Sami Zayn? No. Kevin Owens versus Sami Zayn is your IC title match at WrestleMania. If it's not done, they're doing it all wrong. Guys, I'm getting out of here. Thank you so very much for all of your support on the podcast. If you enjoyed it, hit that thumbs up. Hit that subscribe button down below. Turn on that bell for notifications. And I will see you right back here live for Monday night and the Monday Night Raw post show right here on Off the Script. BlueChew.com. BlueChew.com. Use code JD at checkout for your free sample. Patreon.com/JD from NY206. Make sure you guys go and get your masks, your Off the Script masks. Mouthmasker.com/OTS. Bonfire.com for all your merchandising needs. The official online shop of Off the Script. And if you missed any of the videos on the channel during the week, links will be down below in the description. Hit that thumbs up. Stun that thumbs up like Kevin Owens used to do. And I'll see you guys right back here for the post show on Monday night. Thank you guys for everything. It's been a great weekend, news-filled weekend, and I'll be back next week with episode 350 of the podcast, AEW Full Gear, Saturday night.